The world has had a century-long love affair with dams. In the 1930s, dam building helped kick-start a depressed US economy. The Aswan Dam on the Nile transformed the Egyptian economy. Dams could provide limitless electricity. They could ensure water for parched fields or thirsty cities. Dams could help control floods. Now, though, the love affair is over. The world's 45,000 big dams have often generated as much controversy as they have benefits. The environmental and social costs of big dams have at times proved unacceptably high. Fragile ecosystems have been damaged irreparably. Irrigated land has turned to salt. Dams choked with silt have failed to live up to the expectations promised by their designers. Millions, meanwhile, have been forced to abandon their homes and their livelihoods. It's all triggered a radical rethink, and the Independent World Commission on Dams was set up in 1997 to investigate.
We looked at a number of dams in their context. Why were they built? What were the results? What were the expectations? How were they fulfilled? What happened to the people downstream? What was the actual nature of the effect on their lives? Particularly, we looked at the themes from an environment, resettlement, to the emission of gas, to the benefits that were delivered, who paid for the benefits, and who benefited.
2.5 years and $10 million later, the World Commission, comprising experts from all sides of the Great Dam debate, has produced a 450-page report of their findings. They recognize the long-term costs that accrue when too few determine for too many what is best for society. In too many cases, the report says, an unacceptably high price has been paid.
I mean, are they sitting there suffering and crying, or are they saying, all right, we're...
But if power and water supply is needed, the question is, what's the alternative? In terms of electricity, how about nuclear or fossil fuels? The problem for planners is they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
How are we going to provide all the water and all the energy that will be needed when there are 3 billion more people in the world? This is a real problem, and I think one of the major contributions of the World Commission in this regard is to lay out guidelines and criteria for how we should tackle this problem.
With this seemingly intractable problem in mind, the 12 independent commissioners set off to study 7 big dam projects around the world, one of them the Tucurui Dam in Brazil. The Amazon basin is one of the richest habitats on the planet, but in the 1970s, Brazil's planners dreamed of taming its wild rivers to feed insatiable demands from the country's power-hungry factories. The Tucurui Dam is huge. Completed in 1985, it generates all the electricity required by cities and industries across northern Brazil. But progress came at a price. The 40,000 people displaced by rising waters upstream were not happy with the resettlement.
We were going to a meeting with our union. It's the union for the rural workers from the Tucurui. This one here had broken fingers and was pushed as they would push an animal. This other one here has been threatened with guns, and they stuck the tip of the rifle into his back. This person here has broken bones now, and there is another injured one over there. In total, it was about 10 people injured, and one was in a really bad state. We are not sure what happened to him yet.
There's been criticism that more effort was put into saving the wildlife than helping the people. The power company, Eletronorte, had a different opinion.
Another very important factor brought by the Eletronorte was the possibility of making this area inhabited. When we first got here, this area hardly had any agriculture or farming. Today we can see that this has taken place. All this has only been possible due to the implementation of new resources, planning, and money invested by Eletronorte. During the time of the Tucurui Dam, around 100,000 people moved into this area.
When the Tucurui Dam was first built, one of the biggest objections was that more than half of the power generated was going directly to industrial complexes, particularly aluminium smelters exporting abroad. Today, though, a new phase of the Tucurui Dam is under construction. This will add 11 new generators, doubling the power output of the Tucurui Dam. 4,000 people are working on the construction of Phase 2, and it is claimed that most of this additional energy will benefit Brazilian households before the aluminium exporters. But local union leaders still aren't happy. 15 years after first documenting Tucurui, Earth Report caught up with a few of those still chasing compensation.
We've been fighting for these people's rights, but Eletronorte doesn't want to face up to its responsibilities. Before, they said that the water would not affect lots of areas that it did affect. We think it's possible that this will happen again.
And there might be further problems. Phase 2 was approved before Brazil's tougher environmental legislation was phased in, so it doesn't have to take these new regulations into consideration.
95% of the electricity used in Brazil comes from hydroelectric sources. But in the future growth, I think people are going to pay more and more attention to alternatives, which of course will reduce the need for hydroelectric power. But still, some people argue that burning gas will aggravate the problems of global warming. And so therefore it's this situation in which it's difficult to win.
If the secret is not to build dams that destroy local ecology or people's lives, then Norway, it seems, has got it right. But even here, in a country where hydro schemes generate 99.6% of all power produced, they're now questioning whether big dams are really the answer. Norwegians consume more energy per capita than any other country on Earth, about 10 times the world average. Power is cheap thanks to numerous hydroelectric projects. Norway is a big empty land of just a few million people, yet it ranks number 6 in the World League of big hydro producers. Earth Report travelled to the remote Glomma and Lagen basin. It was here that the World Commission on Dams set about examining the essential ingredients of a successful hydroelectric power project. The conclusion? Norway's natural water system helped, but its democratic, transparent decision-making process meant that here, dams worked.
In Norway, we have a good framework, I think, when we talk about hydropower and environment. And this framework consists of 3 parts. First, we have the rules for the licensing process, and then we have the national plan for protection of valuable rivers, and we have the national plan for hydropower.
This blueprint sets out who can build what, where, and when. The aim is to minimize the impacts on people and their environment.
The Glomma and Lagen basin is a very large basin in the Norwegian context. It covers more than 40,000 square kilometers, which is about 10% of Norway. The river itself, it consists of 2 branches, the Lagen river and the Glomma river. In that river we have 26 different reservoirs of some magnitude. We also have some 40 different power stations.
But with such a large number of hydropower projects throughout the basin, the World Commission on Dams wanted to know how the Norwegians had managed to avoid the large-scale disruption associated with big dam projects elsewhere in the world. For close to a century, the dams of Glomma and Lagen basin have been built in remote locations, high in the mountainous wilderness of northern Norway. Instead of drowning vast tracts of land, the planners used existing natural lakes as their reservoirs. When dams were built, water levels rose a bit, but not enough to wreak environmental or social havoc. Despite this, however, the Commission did record cases of loss of habitat, which it said was due to the dams.
You always have to balance, because all projects has more or less damages. These negative consequences mostly involve natural conservation and fish.
Half the population of Norway goes fishing at least once a year. It's the most popular form of outdoor recreation. The dams interfere with the migration of fish, so conserving fish stocks has become a key aspect important to dam planners. Today, the dam keeper is monitoring fish populations near his dam. As part of their conservation efforts, they have constructed fish ladders.
Yeah, we have quite a lot of fish ladders, yeah. To make it able for the fish to pass the dams, because they usually can't jump some 10, 15, 20 meters up in the air, so they have to have a kind of fish ladder to walk through. And the fish ladder is like a staircase with water instead of solid stairs. So they can jump from one stair to another to climb up and bypass the dam construction.
Of the 3 fish caught temporarily in the dam keeper's cage, 2 are identified as coming from the local fish hatchery. This concerted effort to carefully manage fish stocks stands out as one of the most effective measures taken in Norway to minimize the impact of its dams. Fortunately for the authorities in the Glomma and Lagen basin, the well-being of local fish was about the biggest headache posed by the hydropower schemes. For once, there weren't any people to be moved.
In Norway, we never have conflicts with people that has to move away, never. Because almost all the projects are in the high-up country where no people are.
If it wasn't for the well-publicized social fallout from big dam schemes elsewhere in the world, Norwegians would probably be content to carry on producing power as they have for the past 100 years. But as awareness of potential impact has grown among ordinary people here, so has the pressure to reassess alternatives to new hydroelectric power generation.
This last 20 years, I think that if a local community or a municipality is against the project, approval of the project will never be given. Up to now, about 2/3 of the places where you can put up power plant has already been used. I think it's about 1/5 is already protected to this national protection plan, so it's not so much left.
Now this power-hungry nation has a problem. Hydroelectric power has given Norwegians cheap energy. This has led to excessive use, which has in turn led to a spiraling demand.
And who is going to make the decision that forces people to turn down the heat in their houses, to use less electrical equipment in their homes and so on? It's a very tough political decision, and I haven't seen no willingness to take that so far.
So can the new generation of environmentally and globally conscious Norwegians be persuaded to cut back on their consumption of power? If they don't want more dams, will they want the alternatives? It's a question that Norway faces today, and the world might learn from watching what happens. For sure, as the turbines turn, it's a question that other countries, in Asia for instance, are also facing. Thailand, an aspiring Asian tiger economy where dams have contributed to industrialization and prosperity, but have also generated misery. Pak Mun is a big project in the northeastern province of Ubon Ratchathani, a region largely bypassed by Thailand's rapid economic growth. The dam was designed to feed the fast-expanding national power grid, but as the investigating team from the WCD found, this grand design did not take into account the impact the dam would have on the villages of Ubon itself. The World Bank, which has helped to bankroll the project, has come in for criticism in Thailand.
The dam was completed in 1995, but right through the design and the implementation stage and now subsequently, there has been controversy surrounding this dam.
In the shadow of the dam itself, farmers, fishermen and their families from all over the region have set up a protest village. Its residents belong to the Assembly of the Poor, a national movement of ordinary people who feel badly let down by successive Thai governments.
We unanimously agree to stay here permanently, do we? We have divided into many groups to share responsibilities. We've been protesting for such a long time. In brief, what we have got, we got through our struggle, with our blood and tears. But we will fight on. We have concluded that we have lost our community, our nature, the environment, and our livelihood. Look at the old person there. In the old days, she would not have to sit and fish for so long as she does today. Now they have to sit there forever. In the old days, they only had to come for a short while. Now, it is almost not even worth the bait.
The Mun River is a tributary of the mighty Mekong, which cuts through the heart of Indochina. Many of these tributaries, like the Mun, have now been dammed. It's badly disrupted the natural hydrology, and it's also blocked fish from moving up or downstream. People here don't fish for fun. They fish to live, or they used to. It's the height of the monsoon, and in the face of rising water levels, the floodgates have been opened by EGAT, the Electricity Generating Authority of Thailand. It's the first time local fishermen have had their river back since the dam was built.
With regard to the controversy on the fishery and other aspects, the government paid a lot of compensation comparing with the other projects that I have experienced. For example, for the compensation and resettlement, in order to improve the standard of living of the people who has the effect from this project, the government paid 500 million baht. It's equivalent to about 25 million US dollar.
But the villagers didn't want the power company's flood money. They just wanted their lives back. In 1995, 3,000 villagers were living in the Ubon protest village. As the years have gone by, their numbers have grown. They remain unhappy with the compensation and the limited dam gate openings. The government's shown little interest in coming to Ubon to address their problems, so they have now taken the problems to the government. More than 400 villagers have set up a makeshift encampment across the street from Government House in downtown Bangkok. They'll stay there, their leaders say, until their demands have been met.
ที่การไฟฟ้าฝ่ายผลิตได้ออกมาบอกว่า The IGAT always claims it already paid all compensation to the villagers. Actually, what IGAT said is kind of cheating. What it paid for was only the villagers' lands, homes and properties that were affected by the floods. The villagers are demanding other compensation for their occupations, for their lifestyles along the Moon River.
As well as researching the opposition to Pakmun, the World Commission on Dams wanted to know what benefits the dam had brought to Thailand.
I think the Pakmun Dam has contributed to power generation in Thailand. One should also remember that it is high growth rates that pulled a lot of Thais out of poverty. And so to that extent that power helped high growth and high growth pulled people out of poverty, I think Pakmun has contributed to the development objectives of Thailand.
At the moment, the government of Thailand and the villagers of Ubon are at an impasse. So what will the future hold for Pakmun and the villagers?
Northern Thailand, northeastern Thailand, the area we are talking about now where the dam is located, bears twice the average national burden of poverty. And in the very poor area, people depend very much on avocations like fisheries. So the broader solution to the problem is basically development of the area and more opportunities for poor people to participate in development. And something needs to be done urgently to see that more people can earn livelihoods of fisheries. And the way that can be done is to allow a framework for managing the fishery resource in such a way that fishermen and other poor people have a voice in the management, to bring in technologies that will increase the availability of fisheries in the area. I think this is far more productive than looking backwards and just pointing fingers at the various parties concerned.
WCD is a unique process. I think it's the first time that such a diverse group of people have been brought around the table with the single purpose of trying to come to an agreement on such a contentious issue.
In the final report, the Commission has emphasized the need to expand public participation in policy making, especially when dealing with dams and development. The report notes that the thrust of recent protests against globalization is the rising anger over lack of openness in global decision-making. And it's exactly the same issues of transparency and accountability which surround the Great Dam debate. Every time a wall is built across a river, these issues must be addressed. Take heed, this report warns, or be damned.
It's possible for people from very different backgrounds who have very little in agreement to work together for the greater good of humanity. So we address all the principal actors directly to ensure that there is a follow-up that they can embark on themselves. We looked at a number of dams in their context, why were they built, what were the results.
The water and all the energy that will be needed when there are 3 billion more people in the world. This is a real problem, and I think one of the major contributions of the World Commission in this regard is to lay out guidelines and criteria for how we should tackle this problem.
Ontem era uma convocação de uma Assembleia Geral do nosso sindicato, Sindicato dos Trabalhadores Rurais de Tucurui.
Outro fator muito importante que a usina trouxe, um incremento de recursos na economia regional que possibilitou a fixação do homem, a efetiva fixação, a efetiva posse da terra do homem na região. Quando nós aqui chegamos, a região não dispunha de praticamente nenhuma atividade agropastoril. Hoje já há toda a região, a grande região de Tucurui, já está ou implantada ou em implantação grandes projetos agropecuários. Isso foi fruto desse incremento de recursos na economia regional. Nós, no entorno da construção da usina, foram mobilizadas da ordem de 100 mil pessoas para a região de Tucurui.
Conseguir os direitos deles e até hoje a Eletronorte não cumpre com suas obrigações.